get anything.
Well, we got you.
Make sure that we at least
Yeah, I'm
preach.
hypocrisy is so unattractive on a man in that age. Excuse me, I had burst.
Watch your mouth.
I'll tell you what, this scares me when I can't see Richie's expression to know what's going on. I'm a little intimidated.
I would be. That's why I'm back here.
Every man I've ever known has been intimidated by me. And I don't know why.
It's because you know how to kill a snake and you know how to bring bugs. That's why.
Is that why?
You want me to slide over one? Yeah. Misty just moved so she can see around me.
I'm sorry.
We were notified Thursday that they'll be tomorrow.
No, I'm just trying to work
Oh, I just a little guy. How long was he? Oh, okay.
Almost filled the whole thing. He was a danger.
We didn't kill him, did you?
No, are you kidding? They eat bugs and rats and they do so many
They do
good
that.
things.
They'll eat
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, I love snakes. Oh, you know what it is. I respect them.
You can't say you're married.
I'm married to a weasel. Not a
Somebody
snake.
is a weasel. Oh,
Just a little thing.
to get down here because I left late. I was gonna leave it.
Could I have everyone on the phone announce themselves, please? Is there anyone on the phone? They were there.
49.
Hello on the phone. You bump it? The number's there. Try again. Is there anyone on the phone? Okay, go ahead.
Morning. Please rise for the prayer and for the Pledge of Allegiance. Dear Lord, we gather this meeting, giving us the use of your gift for peace and understanding, that we may approach the matters of the county with sincere and just hearts. May your wisdom guide us, Father. Teach us to think wisely and to act with courage and conviction for the good of all. Lord, we celebrated Flag Day this past Sunday. We praise you for the flag of the United States of America and all it represents. You have shed your grace on us. We especially pray for our land with all the challenges we are facing as individuals and a nation. This piece of cloth is about the greatness we have become as a nation, that thousands have fought and stood firm to defend our land and the Constitution. From the foundations of the men and women of the original 13 colonies to the 36 million in the 50 states, we are the United States of America. One nation, under God, indivisible. Let us not forget liberty and justice for all as we strive as a nation to achieve those means. We humbly present this prayer to you and ask for your blessing. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. We'll convene the Commissioners' meeting at this time and ask for the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Comment from public on agenda items only. Agenda items only.
I forgot my notes. Pardon me.
Morning.
Good morning. My name is Karen Koch. I reside on Myers Road in Trout Run, Pennsylvania, resident of the county. Actually own 2 properties in the county, one on Ringler Road, one on Myers Road. I would like to address action item 8.1, the agreement with the Chamber of Commerce for the second round of grant and loan programs for the small businesses in this community. You're looking at supporting the small businesses. As I had said before, I previously was a small business owner, so I do empathize with the struggle that they may enduring. Yet at the same time, when I look over Act 13 legacy funds and how they have been spent in the past, I see where Ways Garden has been allocated over $23,000 for assistance at Ways Garden. The Susquehanna Township basketball court, $20,000 of Act 13 funds has been used there. The South Williamsport Community Park Association tennis court project, $20,000. We have asked for $10,000 to help divert people in an emergency situation from institutional care. Yet we have been told that no, the county is not responsible for this, that we need to go pursue other avenues, reach out to the Commonwealth. Again, we start meetings with prayers and we ask for guidance and we talk about civil rights and we talk about for the people and all the people. Yet it appears that tennis courts and parks and pretty flowery things, which I do appreciate, but somehow in my mind do not tip the scale to be a greater financial priority for this county versus $10,000 to assist with transitions. As an employee of a small nonprofit entity, we have begun using our money to assist with transition because we have no support from anywhere else. We cannot continue to do this. We do not have the funds. So if you're willing to spend $11,000 on folding tables and chairs so that people can appropriately social distance at the golf course, and you find it nowhere reasonable to offer $10,000 to save lives, shame on you.
Any other public comment on agenda items only?
At the end.
Okay, hearing none.
Okay, we have no bid openings, no accounts payable cash requirements report, no TDA actions, so we'll go to 5.0, personnel actions with Roxanne Greco.
Good morning, Roxanne.
Good morning, Commissioners. In the Information Services Department, Jerry L. Kennedy Jr. as a full-time replacement promotion, Director of Information Services, pay grade 13, salary of $89,800.44, effective June 14, 2020. In Juvenile Probation, Courtney E. English as a full-time replacement promotion, Clerk 3, pay grade 4, salary $15.50 an hour, effective June 28, 2020.
Okay, any discussion Just want to congratulate both of them at this time, especially Mr. Kennedy. As I explained a few weeks ago, the IT department is the central nervous system of the county government. It touches every different department. And Mr. Kennedy, got quite a bit on your plate. We wish you well. Okay, thank you.
I also would like to congratulate both of them. Both are in different places. Jerry has his responsibilities. Courtney, is Courtney here? No, but I see Ed here. Robbins, right?
Ed was in the back there, he is.
Yes. And Courtney, we thank you for your commitment to children and to juveniles. And, you know, we know that your job is very important to keep things straight, to help these kids. So thank you both.
Okay. I have a motion to accept.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's no salary board, and we're moving on to 7.0. 7.1, rebid for bread products, Maya Toon.
Morning, Maya.
Morning, Commissioners. This is just a rebid because the first round we did not receive any.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I'm gonna try this one again.
Okay.
Sherry, give me the new number.
Jason Yorks.
Thank you, Jason.
Eileen, just real quickly, we have Kristen McLaughlin trying to call in.
I just emailed her, so we're waiting for her to call in.
Okay.
Okay, we have a proclamation to recognize Waste and Recycling Workers Week, June 15th through the 19th, and we have Jason on the line now. So
Morning, Jason.
Commissioner Musser is going to read.
Morning, Jason.
Morning, Commissioners.
Whereas Lycoming County celebrates the week of June 15th as Waste and Recycling Workers Week, and whereas according to the Center for Disease Control, the eradication of many diseases in the Western world is due in large part to high public sanitation standards resulting from effective garbage disposal. And whereas the men and women employed by Lycoming County, as well as private refuge collection and hauling industry in the community, make significant contributions to the safety, health, and welfare of its citizens. Whereas the proper collection and disposal of waste and recyclables is vital to preventing disease, litter, and dump heaps. And whereas refuge haulers contribute to tidy and clean community. And whereas the county of Lycoming values and celebrates hundreds of trash collectors, dumpsters haulers, sewage workers, street cleaners, and all others employed in the sanitation industry to serve residents and local businesses. And now therefore, the Board of Commissioners for the County of Lycoming hereby proclaim the week of June 5th, 19th through the 19th, 2020 as Waste and Recycling Workers Week, signed by Chairman Metzger, Vice Chairman Musser, and Secretary Maravito. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Commissioners. I appreciate the recognition for our workers and our customers throughout our 6-county region. We have a little over 85 licensed haulers in our region, and everybody who's in the garbage disposal business typically starts their day at 3 or 4 in the morning. And they're out in the traffic, they're out in every day, cold, the rain, the heat. And our employees are the same, are in all sorts of weather conditions, equipment that you're walking around in, the hazards that all the jobs offer are substantial. It is probably the top 5 in the most hazardous line of work there is in the country. We do appreciate the recognition. RMS will be having a chicken barbecue for our employees here when our social distancing isn't as easy to overcome. We'll have a chicken barbecue for the folks. We do have a customer appreciation day typically in late August, early September every year for all of our haulers too. So thanks again for the recognition.
Jason, could you state for the public some of the challenges you've had during COVID?
Twofold. One would be the solid waste side, the landfill side. We have a lot of the situation with COVID was the unknowns early on. We had a lot of concerns about handling cash, credit cards, interacting with the customers. There was those concerns. Then again, there was the concerns of is COVID coming in on the materials. That's where the recycling side came. We also, with recycling, you're sorting materials and you have a large group of people in a tight area, which we all know is one of the problems that we face with COVID. And of course, then there was the fear of the disease coming in on the material. So we've had a lot of struggles with that. The waste side, we were back and running full tilt with waste offering for cash, credit cards, and not just commercial accounts. With the recycling, we are getting back up and running. We have 10 sites open now. We just bought on Muncie Creek Township yesterday, and we have a few more that we want to bring on site. We're just modifying the boxes and asking everybody to do their part and help recycle properly.
Kevin, did you respond to Representative Everett's request today, this meeting?
Yes, sir. We got back an informational item to him explaining the situation, the current status.
So, Jason, this is Commissioner Marabito. I want to congratulate you also, and I hope the public understands the importance of the landfill to all of us, not just from the perspective of having a place to put our trash, but as leading the landfill for multiple counties, it's able to generate income that goes back into our general fund. And the landfill pays all of the expenses for the employees, 70 employees of the county, including health care and pensions and salaries, and also manages each year to put about $1.2 million into our general fund. And that obviously eases the burden on our property tax owners. So, and you know, the commissioners are always pushing you to find ways to have more money to put into the general fund because we want to take the pressure off. So tell the employees there we appreciate what they do, Jason, and what you do there as the leader, okay?
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate that recognition. That is important to our employees, that people understand that the revenues of the sales of materials and the tipping fees are what cover our costs, and that the taxpayers do not pay for the county RMS employees. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Okay, we have two employees here for their 10-year service pins. First employee is Caleb Blank. He began his service May 3rd, 2010, and he works for the prison.
Morning, Caleb. Would you like to come forward and say any words?
No,
I've known Caleb since he was a kid, and I worked with his dad. His dad was the warden now at PRC, and is now retired to South Carolina, and did a great job for the county for 30 plus years, and his son's following in his steps and doing a great job. So thank you, Caleb, for all you do, and we hope for a long career for you.
thank you.
Caleb, congratulations. You're in the Vale release program, I take it?
Yes.
Well, that's a real important program for people in the public to understand that the work that Caleb does and the other folks in the department there, led by Harry Rogers, allows us to keep people out of jail, which saves us money, and monitors them in the community prior to trial. And that's so important. Is that correct, Mr. Rogers?
That's correct, yeah, Commissioner.
Okay. But it's very important because, just to give you an example, if someone is sitting in our prison and suffers a heart attack, the cost for all that medical care is on the county. if someone is outside the prison and they're on parole or they're on supervision under Mr. Rogers' unit, and they have that heart attack, if they're covered by private insurance, it's going to be paid by that. If they're covered by Medicaid or Medicare, it's going to be covered by that. So it helps the taxpayers. So we thank you for your commitment for 10 years.
We have, go ahead. We have a certificate and a 10-year pin if you'd like to come up and receive it.
We do virtual. You know, I heard from the priest up at one of the churches that he said we should start to do, this is Father Bill, we should start to do what they do in Arab countries, which is that when they greet people, they put their hand on their heart, which is a way. Is that right, Mr. Fink? Do you remember that?
I remember that.
Yeah.
I was at the service.
Right, and that's something we may want to think about as a way of showing acknowledgement and recognition of another human being. So, Caleb, my hand is on my heart for you.
All right. Sarah Fogelman is here to receive her pin. She started her service June 7th, 2010, and she works for the DA's office. Sarah?
Sarah, would you like to say anything?
Thank you for the.
Thank you. Mr. Gardner, you're here on her behalf. You're her direct supervisor, and I've indirectly worked with Sarah over the years with the county, and she always knew she did a great job, and she always has a smile on her face, which makes anybody's day when you can smile and share a smile back.
She absolutely does. Sarah was part of the reorganization plan when I came into office. She assumed a new title, new responsibilities. She's assumed all of that with dignity, grace. Her level of efficiency and dedication to the position cannot be understated. She's been overstated. Thank you. She's an asset. It's 10 years is quite a length of time, and we hope to see her 10 more years.
Yep.
Thank you, Sarah.
Great. Thank you. We also have a certificate and a pin for you. Okay. Yep.
All right, we'll move on to our action items. 8.1, Maya Toon, approved donation agreement with Williamsport-Lycoming Chamber of Commerce.
Morning,
Morning, Maya.
Commissioners. Seeking approval for the donation agreement with the Lycoming Williamsport Chamber of Commerce. This is to support round 2 of the Lycoming County Small Business Relief Fund Grant and Loan Program. We are going to request that we do $150,000. $100,000 will go towards the grant side, a portion of the program, $50,000 towards the loan side. And again, this particular program is to make grants and loans to small businesses that have been severely impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Fink, would you like to state anything?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Maya. We come to you this morning requesting the opportunity to be able to continue this effort. We just finished our first round of this. We did $100,000 in grants and $100,000 in loans. We have been able to assist 89 small businesses here in Lycoming County through these efforts. I will tell you, it's been eye-opening as to what's happened to a number of small businesses that have shared just stories that you have to read them to really comprehend the depth that this pandemic has hit for small businesses in particular. Being able to read through the applications and understand how businesses were just shut down, and one that comes to mind is a porta potty business that you don't really think about them just because they're always there. This spring is when they pick up their business. You look at it, they save their money into the winter. They live off of winter savings, and then they start to replenish their funds come spring. That didn't happen this year. When the shutdown came, it not only impacted the construction business, which they heavily are involved in providing those products, but it also impacted, soccer, baseball, softball, all the fields, all the events that they provide those their services to were impacted. And that's just one. There are a number of other businesses, all different types of businesses. We are aware of the barber shops and the beauty salons and everybody else that's been impacted. We've been able to help a number of those businesses. I will tell you, though, we have a number that have called and have already reached out to us asking if we're going to do anything else. What else is out there? They're hearing what the state's doing. Unfortunately, the state doesn't have their application in process yet. We put our program out the middle of May, and we've already started cutting checks last week to small businesses. So from that aspect of it, it's one of the things that we come to you this morning. Unfortunately, we have to come to you because there's not a lot out there for small businesses to be able to tap into. Having talked to a number of small businesses through this process, it's been daunting for them. Applying for a PPP, applying for an EIDL, the closeouts, I will tell you that's just even more daunting for a lot of these small businesses. It's overwhelming. They didn't expect to have to deal with this. Yesterday I was on the phone with a small business owner, and she was in tears. I mean, it just overwhelmed with what's been going on these past several months. And, they just need help. I think they need hope, and they need help. So with that, I'm coming to you this morning with this request.
Okay, thank you.
I just got off.
Yes,
Can I speak on that?
not this time. We had time for agenda items only, and this was on the agenda. During public comment at the end, you'll be...
It wasn't on the agenda that I printed out this morning until I came here.
It was added at the last
And then it was
minute.
added, so you caught me off guard. I didn't realize this was actually happening until...
Go ahead.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Misty Dion, and I'm the CEO for the Roads to Freedom Center for Independent Living, located just down the road. We cover services for people with disabilities of all different disabilities, age group, and we're in about 30 counties. We're a small local nonprofit, and we've been coming to the commissioner meetings for the past, I'd say, month or, maybe more, month and a half. You're all aware of the disaster, the county declared disaster happening in Jersey Shore. And so hearing on the agenda that you're considering giving money to the small business, though I empathize and hear of their cries, we have, I think the number is up to 24, counting one who moved to a different county but came from the same institution. So theoretically, all the Lycoming County COVID-19 cases of people who've passed have been within this county out of one institution, Jersey Shore Manor Care. So our agency, backed by some very credible associations and national disability-led providers and associations, have put together a relief program that we've come to you to discuss and request funding for. I think you've had multiple emails, text messages, verbal communication with us, and a proposal. Yet I haven't seen it put on the agenda. So while we talk about disasters and people's livelihoods and whether the county will give money for that, and I know Karen said it well earlier when we said shame on you, but it seems to me that that and based on the video you had displayed live of the last meeting, there were some comments made to back up the earlier threat that Tony Massar had said to me about slashing funding for an organization you've never supported. So it seems like I'm led to believe that because there's been 24 deaths, we've anteed up money. We're trying to save lives for the disaster that really is on your hands, and we're asking, can we help support that? We think that the money would be better served by some of the citizens in your area who live out in the community. They can attest, if you want to come up and talk about what you had, wanted to talk. Jay could be in the nursing
We can discuss
facility
this
tomorrow.
during public comment, and he'll have the opportunity to speak during public comment.
Okay.
Right now, we're on action item regarding the chamber.
So with that, was there a proposal? Was this discussed? I see it just came up on the agenda today, and it's the round 2. It's, they have PPP, Jason mentioned some of the other grants that are available, state and federally. And I wonder, for a program that has no other alternatives, why you wouldn't consider supporting that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions of
No,
what our request is?
This morning I had a NACO regional conference call with, I think there's about 12, 13 states involved in the northeast region of NACO. And the Senate is now taking up a bill, they might call it the SMART Act or whatnot. The amount of money that they're talking about is less than $1 trillion or as much as $2 trillion. One of the issues that face small counties such as Lycoming County and Potter, Susquehanna is, again, it's going to be based off of a population. And that's troubling and concerning to small counties like us. There are minimums that are placed into the act, which is good, okay, but a minimum of $1 million doesn't go very far, when you have the devastation that took place in small rural communities. I mean, $1 million is a lot of money, but when it comes to different programs, it's nothing compared to the billions and billions of dollars that, third class, first and second class counties will receive. So there is a little bit of hope. Trust me, I'm not in favor of the next funding package. We're borrowing way too much money. But this is something that will be coming up probably in the next couple of weeks. The president has stalled it right now until he gets more information on how it will be spent and allocated. I want to say, ever since I've been a commissioner, we've looked at the Act 13 monies as monies that are of and for the people of Lycoming County. It was a blessing that we received from companies that learned how to frack, how to drill for our natural resources that are placed underneath our feet, okay? We've utilized those funds in a manner of which we always try to get a return on our investment. And sometimes those returns were as low as 7 times the investment, and sometimes as high as 35 times what we've contributed. Being in business is, I'm ready to sell off, in the next 4 years. But I'll never forget what it took to get me to where I'm at today. And those first couple years were always the most difficult ones. And we do have a lot of businesses that are startups. And whether it be small coffee shops or small manufacturing businesses, advertising, doesn't matter. People risk their life savings to start them. And by no fault of their own, they were asked to close down. And I believe, and I'm not sure if you have the number of what small business, how many people they employ, okay? And I know from the chamber, the state chamber, people that think the small businesses are companies under 500 or less. You know, that's not small business here, right? So knowing that they don't have a lot to look forward to as far as the CARES Act, although some got the PPP, and maybe the SMART Act, you know, I think this is money well spent, and I'm honored to, you know, to support it. Couple questions.
Yes.
There, in your original proposal, not to us, but with the chamber, 50% of the money went to the Williamsport area, and the rest went around Lycoming County.
Correct.
What are you planning on doing now?
Let me explain why. The way we restructured the initial round was we took our resources that we had. We have a loan program that we have in partnership with the city of Williamsport. We took the loan proceeds. We've never touched the interest. What we ended up doing was taking that interest and putting $50,000 for grants to go to the city, as well as $50,000 of loans to go to the city. And then we took the remaining $50,000 in each of the pools, and we made that available to all of Lycoming County. Again, that was because we were working with the city with some of their funds, and we wanted to make sure that those funds stayed within the city. With regards to this program, it would be eligible for this phase 2. It would be eligible for all of Lycoming County businesses. There would not be an allocation set aside for any particular community. It would be more just all who would apply.
Okay.
And Jason, 50 of the 100,000 would be a loan where the chamber would pay.
Yes, we're actually going to match this with our own loan proceeds, our own loan program as well. So we will have the 50 that you provide to us, we will match that with 50 on our own, okay. And we'll be able to put in $100,000. So there'll be $100,000 in grants and $100,000 in loans.
Great. Okay, Commissioner?
Mr. Chairman, I think given the fact that this just showed up on the agenda literally 45 minutes ago, we should allow anybody who is here to speak on it, whether their thought is comparing this to what's happening with something else or whether it's speaking directly on this. I don't think we should use prior censorship to decide, well, if someone is speaking on this issue regarding how it relates to something else, that we shouldn't hear from them. I think especially we have normally in the past had our Tuesday, Thursdays. We've agreed that we are not doing that because of the COVID, but I think that especially since this went on at such a last minute, we really should allow anyone who's here, because otherwise we're saying to folks, come to, you come to a commissioner's meeting, you're not going to be able to speak. So I would request and humbly request that we allow that.
Chairman, I would also agree.
Yeah, there's no issue. That'd be fine. Okay. Do you have anything else you want to state?
No. Well, let me just make a comment. You may recall, Mr. Fink, that. And I'm very torn by this because I actually had suggested this at the UPMC forum, if you remember.
Yep.
On May 12th in 2020, the 3 commissioners were at a forum at UPMC, and you asked the question, what can the county do to assist?
Right.
And I said to you that the county has, I said $16 million, it's probably closer to $15 million in Act 13 funds, and that our businesses need help. I also mentioned that our schools need help and so forth. So I understand and I recognize the need, and I've had conversations with the folks from the First Community Foundation and with you about this in numerous meetings. And I'll reserve some other comments for later, but I would like to hear from the public. But I appreciate the efforts that you've put together to try to help our small businesses. One of the things I said at the UPMC forum is that these small businesses oftentimes are 1 or 2 family members who may employ themselves and their family and 4 other people. And that's the fabric of living in small-town America, and that it's critical that we keep that afloat because those people have exercised initiative to get those businesses going. And I always believe that there's ways to help in numerous places. So I thank you for your efforts.
Okay. This was added to the agenda late yesterday. We had a discussion yesterday morning. We added it to the agenda, but obviously didn't get printed out there soon enough. So we're definitely, we want to make sure everybody has the opportunity to speak regarding this. So if there's anyone from the audience who would like to talk, feel free to come up to the podium, introduce yourself, your name, and we'll be glad to hear from you.
Very accessible setup. Excuse me.
The video shows.
A bit more accessible.
Video, wow. What I was trying to explain is that there's a young lady here, Miss Gretchen Kennedy, I believe? Right, who's just wheeling her walker over to the podium, which is...
I can hold it for you if you'd like.
Well...
It's very heavy. If you got it, it's heavy.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Gretchen Kennedy. I live at 900 Nichols Place, apartment 105 in Williamsport. I do not own any property here, but for years I've hated the fact that the county supports the golf course. And when I found out this past week that on June 9th you decided to buy chairs and tables for the golf course, that's ridiculous. With money not even allocated for that purpose. Gas money? As an 80-year-old disabled senior citizen, I really object to buying chairs for an albatross when there are senior citizens of a nursing home in a nursing home that is in bad shape right now, where people have died and they need help there. And Jersey Shore is in Lycoming County, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Well, then why aren't we supporting that? Why don't we take care of that? Now you want to give small businesses. I'm not against that because I eat my meals from small businesses and a lot of other things. But the nursing home in Jersey Shore, they need help. And why wouldn't you take care of that before you bother? And don't tell me you're going to wait till the feds take over, because you might wait till hell freezes over before they do anything. And I think that's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you.
Gretchen, under Act 13, there's 3 different silos of money.
Okay.
First silo is the original act, which has 13 restrictions that we're allowed to fund. Okay. The second silo would be legacy. Okay, legacy is a statute in the act that the natural gas companies fund X amount of money to go to recreation. It can only be used for recreation, nothing else. So that's why when you see monies that were given for playgrounds throughout the communities in Lycoming County, parks, things like that, that money is earmarked solely for recreation, period. We can't use it for anything else.
Chairs and tables come in on recreation.
That's a recreational facility for elderly, for women, for men, for young kids. Oh, there's quite a few. You have to go over and take a look. They have their own leagues and whatnot, but regardless, that's what the legacy funds are for. And then the third is from the Act 13 is monies set aside for bridges and earmarked, specifically earmarked.
About nursing homes.
Well, yeah, sometimes you have to get creative in how we can use the funds.
Well, you You guys are supposed to be smart. You should be able to figure out how to get those funds.
Okay.
So Gretchen, just to further elaborate on Commissioner Macera's comment, the legacy funds can only be used for recreation. There is a way to use general Act 13 funds. There are 11 categories, and there are ways to use them. We're not giving the money. This is important for the public. We're not bailing out a nursing home. That is very important for the public to understand. What we're doing is we're allowing people, or the proposal is to allow people to exercise their federal and state rights to get cared for outside the nursing home. And there is under Act 13, we could probably use that under a general welfare. We'd have to look at it, but certainly thank you today for coming.
I really wish you would look at it. That's an important issue.
I would just ask that when anyone's making a comment regarding this time, that it would have to do with this action item. Whether you're for it or against it, we like to hear about that. We have public comment for anything else.
Well, just
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I did think that Gretchen said that she supports small businesses.
Yes.
And I think she
That's
said,
fine.
she related it to the
Yes.
150,000.
Yep, that's fine. I just want to make sure that's clear. Great, thank you. Sir?
Jay, he's
Go ahead.
trying, well, Jay's trying to get over there.
Okay. Well, this gentleman can talk while Jay's moving around.
That's all right.
He said,
Yeah, go ahead, sir. Just state your name, please.
my name is Jerry L. Webb, 820 High Street, Williamsport, Pennsylvania.
Good morning.
Morning. It says grants and loan programs. I'm a very emotional person, so allow me.
That's fine. Yep, take your time.
It says grants and loan program to assist local businesses, my home, senior home. Those are our local businesses. We need someone to come into those places, a sign that says keep them out of nursing home, honor your father, mother, grandpa, and grandpa. We need people to be able to come into homes. We got a lot of people that's in these senior citizens homes and stuff, and there are good places minded if it's doing the things that need to be done. But we got people with homes that's in nursing homes that need to be in their own home. Because one of the things that I find out, I minister a lot of nursing homes and senior citizen places, and one of the things they say, well, I got a home, I want to go home. But they don't have any funding for people to come into their home and take care of them. So you're talking about dozen nursing homes? One of the reasons I find out, and from talking with people and ministering to people, because I'm also, like I said, a minister, go administer services on Sundays, nursing homes, senior citizen facilities, is that I want to be in my own home. I don't have someone to care for me. And I can understand that children or whatever are working, but we need funding for those things. That is their small businesses. They got homes that they can't go to because they don't have funding for somebody to come in and care for them. You know, my brother is one of them. Well, praise the Lord, bless him. He's able to stay in his own home. He goes to Albright program, but they send people there at his home. And when they can't come, then I step up. I'm a part of it. So when we talk about these grants and things like that, keeping them in our homes and not the nursing homes is one of the things. When I talk to people, then they say that, I find out that it's lowering their morale, it's depressing them, it's stressful, and stress is a silent killer, as we all know. So when the thing that's going on now, saying people cannot come into the nursing home to visit their family, that's discouraging. They want to give up. So that's one of the reasons why we have some of the deaths that's in the nursing home. I say put a badge on if you need to go in and see them or whatever case may be, but don't deny them access to their family, because that's some of the things that they have that keeps them, that hope alive. We talk about the Pledge of Allegiance or flag. I'm an ex-veteran. I fought for that, right for everybody, you know, and to stay in their own home. We need to fund things that people can do just that. What's the use of having a home if you're going to be put in a nursing home because you don't have the funding or the resources to have someone to come in and take care of you? Now, I understand unemployment is high and people need jobs or whatever case may be, but fund more funding for people to go into their home. People will live longer, they'll live happier, whatever, however you want to look at it. The biased opinions that we need to put them in nursing home or whatever case may be. No, that's killing folks. And so we need to fund these things. I had a Dr. Mama the same way. They said because I didn't have the power of attorney for her, they put her in a nursing home. 2 weeks later, she passed away. She said, I don't have no reason to live. I can't be in my own home. I can't see my family when I want to. They wouldn't even allow me to take her out for lunch because they said I didn't have the power of attorney but they said she couldn't stay in a home by herself. They don't fund anything for people to go into the home and do it. Like I said, I'm blessed to have someone to do that for my brother along with myself. And I've worked with people in their own home. You know, I've had a lot of things that I do. The long story short is that we need
They don't fund it
funding.
during the disaster. It's not funded during a disaster.
Excuse me, he's speaking.
This is sort of my advocate as well, but sometimes I get lost for words, so I need help. But yeah, we need these funding so that people can go into the homes and care for these people. You know, they have children that work and stuff like that. They can't do it, you know, because they got to provide for their family. So we need these funding so that they can keep them in there and they'll live longer. They are happy or whatever they may be. When this thing came up and they said you can't go in, what do you think they're feeling? Some of them don't know how to use these phone telecommunications and things like that. And the only people they're going to see is the ones that come and see them when they have an opportunity because they got jobs and things to do. So we need funding to get them in, someone to come into their home, put them back in their homes. Why are they used to having a home if you can't go to it? That's that small business that we talk about. That's my small business. My home is my small business. So the people that's in nursing home, that small business is their home. And we need funding for that. The care workers to come in, we need to give them more money because a lot of times traveling to different places or whatever case may be, they can't really take care of their own selves because they got to travel certain places and then they get 2 hours here, 3 hours there, whatever. So we need funding for that. And we need to get people back in their homes.
Jerry, thank you. Thanks for serving, by the way.
Yes, thank you for your service.
Mr. Webb, you raised a really interesting point. I hope Jason Fink behind you, and I think he understands this. Under federal and state law, if people want to be cared for in their home, the person who is doing the caring can be paid and works as a self-employed person. And now some of them may also work for an agency, but they can work as a self-employed, and that's what you're talking about. So we do have people out there who may not have been able to care for some of the folks that they cared for due to the 19, but the point is, Mr. Fink, that they obviously would be eligible to apply for these grants and loans also.
Do you know how hard it is to apply for these things? I mean, you got so much paperwork to go through. It's discouraged to a lot of people. They can't find it.
Well,
they don't know how to get
the
to it.
good news, Mr. Webb, I don't mean to interrupt you, but the good news about this program, it's a front and back paperwork, which cuts both ways. I'll talk about that later. But Mr. Fink wants to just address what you're raising.
We actually funded individuals who had massage places, hair salons, that was just the individual. So
Yeah.
the thing about it is they need to be paid cash above the table.
Right.
It can't be somebody who doesn't have any documentation
Right.
for their business.
Right, and Mr. Fink, they are, because they many times the funds are being reimbursed through Medicare, so they have to,
It's all
yeah,
it's all
they have
I'm
to
saying-
account
all
for the
I'm saying is
paperwork, they have to
documentation.
submit hours. Yep.
That's all it is.
Right, so Mr. Webb, thank you for bringing that up. That's a really good point.
Some people don't have the technology or the knowledge to do that. The people perish for lack of knowledge. If I don't know how to do it, how can I get it?
Thank you. Morning, Jay.
Good morning. My name is Jay Harner. I live at 4350 Bloomingdale Road. Just listening to this conversation, this isn't a fight of good versus bad, white versus black. I'm a quadriplegic. I work for the Center for Independent Living. I'm the employment coordinator. I pay taxes in the county, to the city. I use the attendant care services that Mr. Webb was talking about. As a quadriplegic, I'm one small mistake from ending up at a nursing facility. If I don't have proper attendant care, if I have some type of sickness or illness that comes up where I can't be cared for in my home, if that were to happen, I would be in a facility like Manor Care. An individual, we have faces. We're not just a number. We're not 24 people in Manor Care. Each person is an individual life, family, experiences. It should not be, well, we can't fund this because there's protocol here or protocol there. Help these people. Keep individuals out of nursing facilities. I don't know this statistic recently. When I first was injured, I'll be paralyzed 23 years in August. I was 18 years old. when I was first injured, I know it was life expectancy for a quadriplegic in a nursing home was less than 2 years. And I know it costs 3 times more for an individual to live in a nursing home and live in their home. So when we talk about dollars and cents and cutting budgets, we need to face the reality that it's cheaper to keep people in their homes, it's safer, they're more productive, they're happier, and they're healthier, so it keeps costs down. And I just think that we need to understand $10,000 in the grand scheme of things is not a lot of money. So I think we need to figure out where to bring it from, implement it, and help Jersey Shore Manor. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
Mr. Arner. Is it Arner?
Harner.
Harner, H-A-R-N-E-R.
Jay Harner.
H-A-R-N-E-R. Okay. Thank you, because what you really bring to our attention is the dignity of people working. You're a taxpayer. Yes. You're a contributing member of society, and the people in nursing homes are also, but they're not allowed to have the full potential they're not being able to be given, which is what you've been able to harness. So thank you for bringing that to our attention.
He's a taxpayer and also assist other people with disabilities to get jobs so that they also can become taxpayers.
Right.
Morning, Judy.
Morning. Jody Banning from the Center for Independent Living. So one thing that you guys had mentioned about the purpose of this is to rejuvenate the businesses downtown.
Not just Lycoming County.
Lycoming County in a whole.
Yes, thank you.
So by getting residents out, as Jay said, not all of them 90 years old. You know, they'll be giving back to the community when they're back out in their community, renting from landlords, eating at local businesses, using the recreational facilities. So by helping us, they're helping the businesses too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can I say one last thing? I just have a question. Is this a relief effort? Is the goal of this COVID relief?
Jason, you can address it.
It is called the Small Business Relief Fund. So that's what it is.
So, I mean, my concern is the relief, we've got people dying. The relief that we've developed is a way to get them out of an unsafe
Talk to them,
environment.
don't talk to me.
Ma'am,
That's
ma'am.
your issue is
So it's an unsafe environment.
This is a separate issue. We can discuss this. We are talking about monies for the chamber right now. Okay, we're not going to compare apples to oranges.
Right.
Okay? We will have, you've had your time to speak. We can address it again in public comment.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, and we'll be glad to entertain your concerns and thoughts. We have been.
I'm not here
Okay?
now.
We're not here for
Okay.
entertainment. Entertain your...
Oh, I'm sorry, my vocabulary isn't to your liking, so we'll be glad to discuss it with you.
Sums up the whole picture.
Okay? Thank you. Back to what Mr. Fink has addressed with us. I find this very, very, very important. I have talked to so many small businesses and businesses that people that have tears in their eyes. And I can relate to this because my father was a small business. He pulled my grandfather out of, they were builders, and he pulled my grandfather out of the bankruptcy and the depression, 1939, and started a business at 50 cents an hour, building houses 50 cents an hour. And our business now is 82 years old, our family business. To have the government shut their doors, this isn't what businesses, these businesses didn't close their doors because they were failing. The government told them they had to shut their doors overnight, 8 o'clock at night. If you recall, a lot of these mandates come out 8 p.m. tonight. Stay home order, 8 p.m. tonight, you close your businesses. So they had to lay people off. So now we have businesses who pay our taxes, who give everything they have to start a business. They miss everything revolving family. the birthdays, the celebrations, the weekends, the night hours they have to go into work because they own a business. These are things that they sacrifice. Every dime they have, they put into these businesses because it's their dream. And the government said, shut your doors. And at that time, they were told probably 2-3 weeks. And for good reason. We had a health crisis. We had a health crisis. But then it went on, and it went on, and it went on. And they had no direction, and they didn't know when it was going to be opened. And the first round of PPE money come out. And some got it, and some didn't. And as we've stated, the feds and state have sat on a lot of monies. And they've said, it's there. And Lycoming County's been told, you have $11 million, but we don't know how it's going to go out. We don't know how it's going to be dispersed. We had a sheet yesterday, rent relief fund, and the figures on that, they're holding back $1 billion and $3 billion of it. $3 billion in the different categories they had, but they didn't know how it was going to be dispersed. These monies, as we've talked with Mr. Fink, these most recent PPE monies that are going to be released aren't going to be given to people probably till August. Is that correct, Jason?
August or later.
You're right. They don't have time. They're not going to make it. We're going on week 13 in this. They're way behind in their rents, employees, and once their door is closed, there goes the tax base for that business, and the employees have no jobs. No jobs, and more debt, and then they move out of the community. And guess what? As the population goes down, we have one of two options. We either cut services drastically, or we raise taxes. And no one wants either option. Either option. So it's vital that we keep these businesses alive. It's vital that we keep people employed. And at $2,000 a grant, this can help 50 businesses. And I believe you have 17 or 18 that contacted you within the last few days that say, we need help right now. So if we can help this, it helps everybody. It helps everybody in the community. It's similar to the cities. Those people that put all their livelihoods, every cent they had, the firefighter into the bar, the African American lady that I watched the other night on the news, it was in tears because they burned her store to the ground. Those stores are gone. They're not coming back to those communities. They're gone. They're not going to rebuild. That affects those tax bases. Minnesota, I believe, St. Paul had 500 businesses burned out. Those people aren't going to go back in those areas and rebuild. They're going to move out of state. And if we have that happen here because of COVID, shame on us. Because we didn't try to help those businesses. So the way I look at it is if we can help someone continue their business to stay in operation and to keep people employed, it helps all of us. It helps all of us. Anything else?
So let me make a few observations here. By the way, I don't believe that this discussion is comparing apples to oranges. I think Mr. Harner put it right on target when he said that this isn't about one program being good and the other program being bad. But it is about acknowledging that there's help needed by many different people in our community, and that all of them, what he taught us, are worthy of our help. I'm disturbed by the process and the implications for us as a board and us as a community. You know, I mentioned to Mr. Fink that I had first proposed this type of help back on May 12th at the UPMC Back to Business Forum. And fast forward, the Chamber at the same time and the First Community Foundation were putting together the first round of the program, which we saw. which was very successful. We've heard from Mr. Fink that there were people who called afterwards and said, hey, look, this is going to let me keep my business going, which is my life. And by the way, that's what the folks are saying that Mr. Harner said to us. This allows us to keep our life going. But what I've seen since that time is disconcerting to me. This organization actually came to us in early April, prior to the May 12th forum, prior to the foundation and the chamber putting together the first round. The Center for Independent Living came to us. So it was over a month earlier, and yet the board still hasn't had a formal meeting to even discuss a proposal with them. They came here on June 11th and asked for a public meeting. Normally this board, when that happens, will say right at the time, yes, we'll have a meeting with you. That was not said last week on June 11th. And actually the resulting conversation caused a disconcertion between the chairman and myself over contacting him, but which is a side comment. But the point is that we've treated this situation differently, and I don't understand why. And the only thing I can attribute it to is not badness on anyone's part, but on a lack of our own understanding. And part of that is because people with disabilities often live outside of us. Unless you have someone in your family, or unless you understand that all of us are on the road to becoming less able. Really, that's the truth of living, is you come and some people are less able right at the moment they're born, and some people have a tragedy that may happen to them, whether it's someone has a diving accident at 18 that paralyzes them or something else, or as we develop age, we all travel a path of being less able, not less worthy, not less important, but less able. But like many things in our culture, we've chosen to put that away, and the use of nursing homes, while in many cases they're a last resort for people, it has also become a way to put people away, out of sight, so we don't have to really try to understand. So I believe that there's a positiveness that can come out of today. I mean, the truth is we need a lot of diverse segments in our community. There are many diverse segments in our community who need help. And we have, by blessing, as Commissioner Masser said, we have funds to deal with it. Whether it's recreation, or whether it's the small business, or whether at a certain point we just say, you know what, we're going to use tax dollars because these organizations are important to us. And you know, whether it's saving businesses or saving lives. So I'm concerned about the process here. And I also am concerned about whether the majority on the board is allowing other things to cloud their vision. Last week at the meeting, we heard the board saying that they were concerned about posts on Facebook. Well, you know what? You can ask Mr. Fink, you can ask some of the other people. There are a lot of nasty things that have been said about me on Facebook. I'm not saying you said them.
I don't do Facebook, so
okay.
You don't have to worry.
I'm not saying you said them, but over the years, part of being an elected official is that people are going to say some positive things about you, going to say negative things about you, and that's part of it. And I get that it doesn't always leave us feeling good, but it's okay. And I also am concerned, there was a reference earlier to the action at the Community Arts Center, and whether that action, the reason I'm deeply concerned about is both of those are example of people exercising their civil rights under the law. On the Facebook, it's the First Amendment right. At the Community Arts Center, it's a right to assemble and to protest. And I know both of my colleagues deeply defend the right of people to do that. So I don't doubt that at all. So, you know, we heard that one of the problems with getting funding out to our small businesses was the incredible paperwork. The PPP program, even though they tried to make it easy, it was confusing. And so there were some small businesses that just said, you know what, A, I don't have the time, and B, I don't understand it, and I can't afford to pay a lawyer. And so they didn't get help. And one of the positive things about this program is it is simple. It's simple. It's about what revenue you lost, and it's about trying to help them. But here's my concern about the process. With the Center for Independent Living request, the board was asking questions: who's going to get the money? How is it going to be used? Will it be paid back? We haven't asked any of those questions with this $150,000. In fact, I'll tell you something, Mr. Fink. If you couldn't pay back the last $50,000 because it went to people, I'm okay with that. Because to me, it's about helping people in a crisis and helping our community. But what I'm saying is that we shouldn't have two standards. We shouldn't have one standard for folks who come with issues to help the disability community and another issue for folks who come for people in the business community. I'm concerned that it wasn't put on the agenda until very late, but I thank the chairman for allowing everyone to speak, and I think that says a lot about us as a board. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to vote in the positive for this, but I want this to be something that moves us forward to finding a way to help the Center for Independent Living. It doesn't have to be a one or the other. That's the lesson that we heard from Mr. Harner. It doesn't have to be. But what it should be is that we should learn from this, that we can have the same capacity to help folks at ManorCare to transition as we've had to help people sit in social distance at a golf course. I mean, it doesn't make any sense that we can't find a way to help people who are dying and he may not have a voice to get out of a nursing home, whether it's ManorCare or one other home. And we have money for as Ms. Gretchen Kennedy told us, we have money for people to social distance at a golf course. So I hope that we can use this today as a way to move forward and a way to find it in our hearts and in our heads to help fund the transition of people out of facilities where they have a legal and a federal right to get care outside of it. And I'm hopeful because I know my colleagues are smart and I know they have big hearts, and I'm hopeful that we're going to move in that direction today. Thank you, Mr. Fink, for the work you put into this.
And Commissioner, at any time this could have been placed on the agenda. You could have just asked for it to be placed on the agenda.
Well, I will do that.
You haven't asked, though.
Okay.
Yesterday,
I
asked for this to be placed on the agenda. I asked Commissioner Massari. He says place it on the agenda for today, which I did, and you were notified. And you were standing in your office where you sit in your office when I notified you. So.
Oh, no, you know, I'm talking about the public. The public wasn't notified.
Yes.
But no, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I will get something together to put on the agenda for next week.
Yep.
Thank you.
And then we can have a decision. My question is, we initially, and you acknowledged this last week as part of your confusion through this, about where this $250,000 figure came out of. And I believe it was in a text message that I was included on when you asked, I believe it was, I'm not sure exactly Misty's title, you asked her, how much do you need?
Right.
And that's where the figure came from. She said $250,000 in that text message. And at that time, when we had a meeting, I asked, where are the people that are coming forward? And I still yet to have one person call my office from ManorCare and say, please get a relative out of here. And I also ask about the format of the $250,000. There was a proposal given to us how much it would be per person, and that was given to us. At that time, we didn't have any further discussion on it until last week. And there is not 24 deaths out of ManorCare. I believe it's less. Every life is precious. One is too many. I believe the county coroner has said the latest was approximately, I think, 20. They have not all come out of ManorCare. There was one out of another nursing home in the community, which is inaccurate. And we had one from Southside last week. They had a private home, which I know that person, and she was a wonderful woman. So the statement that they're all dying of ManorCare is inaccurate. The majority have. And again, I said, please direct, I said last week to Jody, that the state is sitting on monies, and I believe they've even addressed it. This past week they've addressed it. President Trump even addressed it, I believe yesterday, about how poor a lot of these states have handled their nursing homes. And I said, those are the people that you need to speak to, because they had the direct monies available for that. This is who Garth was trying to contact through the Department of Health when he was sending letters on a regular basis to Dr. Levine. So, as our state rep was taking a lead on this, Commissioner Mirabito was taking the lead on it on behalf of the Board of Commissioners. He went up to the vigil. I did not attend the vigil for personal reasons. He's aware of that and the reason why. I wanted to, but I didn't think it was in the best interest, and it was for a personal reason. I shared that with him, and he agreed. So, he took the lead on it. State representative took a lead on it, and we're still no farther ahead. Now, we have seen a turnaround up there. Things have got drastically better.
What?
And we've been told things are much better up there. So,
can I ask?
excuse me, I am speaking. So I sent a letter, or excuse me, an email to Jody on Friday. And I said I'd be glad to write a letter of support. And that's where I'm at this point. If I can write a letter of support to get you in the facility, and I don't, Manor Care is privately owned. If they want to let you in, that's something you're going to have to take up with them. If you have the legal right to get in there, then that should be the case. I don't understand how a commissioner's letter can give you the legal right to enter that facility.
It's support.
It's support, and that's what, I have no problem doing that. I don't want to see anybody die. I have a tremendous fondness for seniors. Tremendous. Okay, my wife takes care of seniors. My mother was elderly. She was, and you don't like the word handicapped, disabled, whatever. Okay, I lived that for the last 5 years of her life. I had to do things that no child should have to do for a parent, because it's tough on the parent to have a child do that, to take care of them in that.
I had to do it for my father.
Right, it's tough.
Who died of COVID.
Right, it's very, very difficult. So we do have a heart, and we do understand, but we also have a responsibility. What is within our realms, what's in with our responsibility and within our authority? What's a commissioner's role? Okay, what is a commissioner's role in this? And what is our authority? So I will be glad to write a letter of support. Okay? So that's all I'm going to address on that. Now we're going to get back to...
With all due respect, we don't want support. Support's not
Okay,
going to save
we
the
are
lives. Get in
talking,
there.
I'm done speaking about this for now. When we get to the public comments, I'll let you speak again. But right now, that's my comment as a commissioner regarding this proposal. It's on the floor, which is action item 8.1. If I don't hear any further discussion from the commissioners, then I would ask for a motion.
All right, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Go ahead.
I want to point out a couple things here.
Yes.
First of all, look, this is what I was trying to explain. Governor Wolf announces $225 million grant program for small businesses impacted by COVID-19. This goes to the question of whether or not we should be waiting on the helping people transition for federal and state help. This is what it says. It says, since this pandemic began, we've heard the needs of the auto body shops, the barber shops, the beauticians, the pizza shop owners, the soul food establishments. I could have said today, I could come to this meeting today and say, hey, I'm not going to vote for this because there's state money coming, $225 million.
Commissioner, that's the federal money.
No, well, federal, state, I don't care
Okay,
where.
that's
The point is, I
going down
could come
through him.
today and say, I don't want to use county money because there's other money coming. And my point is that And look, I'll put a motion on the floor right now. If the problem is that it wasn't on the agenda, I'll move right now to appropriate $25,000 from Act 13 funds to help this organization, the Center for Independent Living, get people who want to transition out. And I would ask one of my colleagues to second the motion. And we will treat it in the same way that we're treating this organization. Now, there's a motion on the floor already, so that, well, actually, there isn't a motion on the floor yet for this. There's just been discussion about that. So I'll put my motion on the floor because there's some question about whether or not I should have had it on the agenda. And I appreciate that. I don't mean that, and to both of you, I don't say that disrespectfully.
I think you are disrespecting. There's not on the agenda.
Well, that's my point. My point is that if we have a commitment to do it.
Agenda, Commissioner, we brought to you.
Yes.
I mean, not me.
No, but we've been talking about this for like 2 months.
Okay,
So ask for it to be put on the agenda next week.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. So you don't feel you can do anything about it without it being on the agenda?
I think we should, but that's not my point.
Well, my only point is I hope to heaven that there's never a need for this board to make a motion to allocate money when it's not on the agenda. Because
It should always be on the agenda.
well, it should always be on the agenda, but the point, quite frankly...
Can we talk about this in public comment? So we can...
Yeah, we can. Okay, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to withdraw my motion to put it on the agenda, and I'm going to say right now that I'd like it on the, I'm going to withdraw my motion right now to appropriate the funds, and I'm going to say to you right now, I'd like it put on the agenda for next week's meeting. Okay?
Thank you.
Next Tuesday. Thank you.
Okay. Can I have a motion to accept action item 8.1, the approval of donations agreement with the Williamsport, Lycoming County Chamber of Commerce to support Lycoming County Small Business Relief Fund and loan program in the amount of $150,000. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to appropriate the money for that program.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure it was recorded.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch and...
We will be putting this out
Great.
here within the next day for businesses. So
Thank you.
if you get contacted about it, there will be an application no later than tomorrow out, through whatever means we can get it through.
Okay.
I want to add one more comment. You know, my son's in the restaurant business, bar business. I know a lot of business owners. And what I find just, exciting and just warms my heart that the people of Lycoming County are supporting these businesses like you've never believed. You know, it's great to live here.
Right.
You know, when you sit there and some of these waitresses, you know, they're used to make good money in tips, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how they lived. And here are people, you know, coming out, giving 20, 30, 40% tips to these people. It was like a statement.
Yep.
And I'm just very proud to be part of this community and part of the citizenry that really support what's going on here during this pandemic.
I will tell you, we've got a number of businesses because we've been trying to get the checks out, so we've been taking them out personally just instead of putting them through the mail. And they've commented about the fact that the same thing, that they've been very appreciative of the community support. The fact of the matter is, you know, once you moved from red and there were business activities allowed to be taking place in yellow, people came out. They came out and supported the local businesses, locally owned businesses. You know, it's good to see now that we're moving into the green phase, the same type of level of activity that I believe people get it. They truly do get it. You've got to support the locals. I understand we're going to have corporate-owned box stores here in the community, and you need to buy from them as well, let's be honest. You know, they employ local people. But the fact of the matter is, when you have the opportunity to support that locally owned business, do it.
And Jason, one thing I want to add is so many of these businesses give back to their community.
Yep.
Sponsorships
Yep.
for sports teams, donations they make for all kinds of causes.
Yep.
I can think of, look at the ones that fed the kids locally during COVID when the schools weren't able to feed the kids.
Right.
And they're doing takeouts and they're dipping into their savings to feed the kids. Those businesses aren't there. They can't help the nonprofits. They're gone. And then where do the nonprofits go for the monies?
Right.
So that's a huge, huge part of how the businesses can back themselves. So it's a way we can give back to keep the businesses afloat.
That's right.
Thank you.
By the way, you don't have to be a member of the chamber to get this.
No,
extra loan, right?
very clear on all of that stuff.
Right.
Yeah, it's the prior round. I mean, almost half of the monies that we gave away the last round went to businesses that weren't members, so.
Right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
8.2, Ed Robbins, approve agreement with Northampton County to provide child welfare services for juvenile probation.
Morning, Ed. Thanks for being patient.
You're welcome, sir. I am before you to ask your approval to accept this renewal of a contract with Northampton County. They provide secure detention services to us. Secure detention for juveniles is akin to the Lycoming County Prison in the sense that it keeps youth from absconding, protects the community while these kids are awaiting hearings and or awaiting placement. So I'd ask for your approval on the contract.
If I'm not mistaken, we've been using Northampton for a while.
Roughly 5 years.
5 years. And the last couple of years, I'm not sure if, I think they was 0 increases, or am I thinking of a different company?
You're thinking of a different one.
Okay.
They asked for 2% the year before.
The year before, okay.
Right.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, can I have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Ed.
You're welcome.
Jason, are you still on the line? 8.3, Jason Yorks, approve the purchase of the new hay baler.
Good morning, Commissioners. Seeking your approval of the purchase of the new hay baler from Brooklyn Vale Ag and Farm Incorporated, amount of $27,194.75. This is through a state purchasing program called Sourcewell, where we're able to purchase the balers. This was the least expensive balers we have. This will be replacing a baler we purchased in 2003, and this past fall we went to get it repaired. The expenses of repairs were significant and too great to want to put justify the money to put back in. So we do use the hay baler. We use the bale hanger here twice a year. And we use the hay to mulch our slopes and promote grass growth.
So, Jason, can you rent a hay baler?
I'm sure you could. Typically, that I don't see that on the rental list. We don't. You probably could find one rental first. The problem is the weather, timing. My employees bale hay when they're able to slip in and bale some hay. It's not. You can't just say well, the first week of June every year we're going to bale hay. We would like to, but Mother Nature doesn't give us that ability. If we own it, we can go over mow, knock down a field or two, next day go over bale. There's a lot of timing issues on that. There's just so we decided that. It's not like we're looking to, we ran other equipment, rain or shine, we can use that kind of equipment. That's the situation here with the bale.
Mr. Yorks, do you know about how much land you have that you would use the hay baler on? How many acres?
Well, we have 2 farms currently there, and I do not have the exact acreage. It's significant. It's probably in excess of 75 or 80 acres. I don't know exactly because some of it that we're getting dirt off of right now, so I don't know exactly the amount there.
That's okay. All right, that's good. Thank you.
When do you need this by?
that the H knocked down a sale. That is our goal, is to get this purchased. This actually was one of the items that we forgot to get going months ago with all the stuff going on with COVID. We should have been ordering it a couple months ago, so we had it. Right now, we don't get our H.
If we tabled this for 1 week, would that be a problem?
There's that your way to table it. I wouldn't have brought it before you, sir, but I didn't think it was important. But we should table it.
I make a motion to table it. Fine.
I second it.
I'm okay with tabling.
Okay, we'll table it 1 week, Jason. Thank you.
Jason also has 8.4, approve access agreement with Gregg Township.
Commissioners, this is a housekeeping item. This is a simple easement for us. We're doing the force main construction pipeline from Gregg Township facility over under Route 15 down along the thoroughfare prison property. We have a small section of ground from the actual Gregg Township property. So to make sure we're properly covered, we need a simple easement to allow us to make sure our contractor is allowed on the property. We're only talking probably 20 yards of ground distance-wise between the facility on Bridge Station Road and to the creek where our property takes over. So it's just a small easement to allow the construction to take place.
Okay, any discussion? Motion.
I'll move to approve the agreement with Gregg Township.
A second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
8,
Thank you, Jason.
8.5, Shannon Rossman, approve agreement between the Department of Army to provide technical assistance for floodplain management study.
Morning, Shannon.
Good morning, Commissioners. We've discussed this previously a number of times. This is just one of the items that has been in the works in order to improve the hazard mitigation on Glade Run in Muncie. The Army Corps of Engineers has agreed to do a Phase 2 study. What they're going to do is the hydrologic and hydraulic analysis for Glade Run, which is the small stream that actually does the majority of the flooding issues for Muncie Borough. They're also going to look at the economics, and they're going to look at stormwater analysis to give us a lot better understanding of what we can do to correct those issues. The contract agreement with them is a 50-50 grant. They will provide $40,000. The county's hazard mitigation fund will use $20,000. And Muncie Bank and Trust has agreed to donate $20,000 into the project. So it's very worthwhile for those citizens there. Any questions?
So Shannon, quick question. You have down on the agenda, it's 80,000.
Yes.
20,000 bank and trust, 20,000 from the hazard relief?
Yes, hazard mitigation funds.
Hazard mitigation, where's the?
And $40,000 from the Army Corps.
Oh, okay, so 80 is the total, they're not
Yes.
putting up 80?
No, they're not putting up 80. The
Army
cost of the
Corps of
project.
Engineer.
Yeah, the cost of the project is 80,000. But they are putting, Army Corps is, the planning division is putting up half of that money themselves.
Right, thanks.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, can I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the agreement with the Army Corps of Engineers.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Shannon.
8.6, Kristen McLaughlin, approve Amendment 2 to cooperative agreement with Jersey Shore Borough. Kristen, are you still on the line?
I am.
Okay.
Morning.
Commissioners.
Good morning.
This is just to extend Jersey Shore's agreement with the Meadow Alley project through, I believe, November 3rd.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, can I have a motion?
I move.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner?
Yes, aye.
Okay, thank you.
Kristen also has 8.7, approve Amendment 1.
Okay, so, amendment 1 to the Federal Fiscal Year 2018 Professional Administration Services Agreement with VitaCog. What this is to, as you know, our agreements delineate both the administration and what we call delivery fees, which are for, environmental reviews as well as labor standards compliance. Under that Federal Fiscal Year 2018 contract, there was a cost allocated for an environmental review in Montoursville Borough that is no longer necessary, so we are removing that amount from the CEDACOG professional service agreement.
I'll move to accept the.
I'll second.
Or approve the amendment.
All in favor, say aye.
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 8.8, Kristen McLaughlin, approve professional administrative services agreement.
And this is your, this is the agreement between CEDACOG and the county for Federal Fiscal Year 2019 CDBG program.
A motion?
I'll move
to approve.
I'll second.
Favor, say aye.
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 8.9, Kristen McLaughlin, approve Amendment 1 to cooperative agreement with STEP Incorporated.
And this is another agreement that is extending the termination date of the agreement between STEP and the county for the Homes in Need program, and it is extending it through November 30th, 2020.
Have a motion?
I'll move.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 And I believe there was one other one.
I have 2 more here for you. 8.10,
Okay.
approve Amendment 2 to cooperative agreement with West Branch Regional Authority.
Okay. I was looking at the other one and I realized
Okay.
I need to rearrange some of the numbers. So the other agreement amendment is between West Branch Regional Authority and the county, again, to extend that termination date to November 30th. And the reason why these are changing is because DCD puts on each contract what's called an extend date by which the money needs to be expended. And in the course of the years over the course of the contract years, at times we are able to extend that expend date. And when we do that, then we need to amend the agreement with the subrecipients, because obviously you don't want to have a contract with the state that says the end date is, say, December 31st, but the contract that you have with a community ends January 31st of the next year. So it's just to keep up with those changes.
Okay, thank you. A motion to accept?
I'll move to accept.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 And then Kristen, your last one, 8.11.
Sure. This is an update to your procurement policy that relates to federal product funds, specifically CDBG and home investment program. I know that you guys, I think, were working with STEP to get a home application together. And so this is just an update to be more in line with the OMB circular as well as just the monitoring policy.
Any discussion?
I'll move.
I'll second
Favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you, Kristen.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. Have a good day.
You too.
The next 6 items are for Mark Egley.
Morning, Mark.
Start with 8.12.
Good morning, Commissioners. Yes, the first item I have is the approval of an agreement with the Children's Choice. It's a foster care private provider, and their per diems range from $38.74 a day up to $94.14 a day.
Any discussion on this? Hearing none, can I have-
I'm sorry, wait. What were the rates you gave?
$38.74 a day up to $94.14 a day. Depends on the level of care that the child might require in the home.
Okay. And like all these contracts, these are ones that we use on an as-needed basis?
Correct.
Yeah.
We try to place all of our children in our own agency foster homes. That way we're not paying the overhead that we do associated with the private providers. But we can't always do that for various reasons.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Have a motion?
I'll move to approve the contract with Children's Choice.
A second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So carried.
No,
Okay.
Right.
I'll
My
just
next
let
item
you
is a contract with Bruce Anderson, a licensed psychologist, to provide some mental health services to the agency. And the contract's not to exceed $15,000 annually. Bruce does some evaluations for us to recommend various types of services. If the family or the child is covered by medical assistance, we bill medical assistance, but this is for some of those folks who may not be covered by private insurance or medical assistance.
Okay, Bruce does a great job.
And you have so many today because they're on the state fiscal year, which is July 1st, 2020 through June 30th.
Correct.
2021. So we're renewing some of the contracts
For the coming fiscal year.
Right.
It's July 1st. Actually, that's correct.
Have a motion?
I'll move to approve the PSA with Mr. Anderson.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next, I have an agreement with Dr. Russell Gambosi. He serves as a medical consultant to the agency, and his agreement is for also not to exceed $15,000 for the year, and he's paid at $75 an hour. He is a resource to some of us when we have injuries or particular help. I need help in understanding some of the medical diagnoses that might have occurred for some of the kids. He sits also on our fatality and near fatality review team, and so he's a great resource to the agency.
Okay.
We use him on an as-needed basis. To be honest with you, I don't think that we spend more than $1,000 a year in this contract.
Okay, thank you.
I'll move to approve the contract with Dr. Gambo.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so carried.
Next, I have our contract with the Guardian Ad Litem. The Guardian Ad Litem represents the child's best interest in matters that we bring to our petition the court for, dependency for children, and the child is appointed a guardian to represent their best interest before the court. And we do that on a monthly retainer of $3,700 a month. That's the same as last year. Those hours vary anywhere from 40 to 50 hours up to maybe 100 hours or more a month, depending on the activity that we have.
Okay.
So you only have one guardian ad litem, Angela Lavecchio.
We do have a substitute. We have a couple substitutes that we use when there might be a conflict or she might be not available, something like that.
Do we do separate contracts with them?
Yes, we have one after this one.
Okay, thank you. I'll move to approve the contract with Angela Lavecchio, guardian ad litem.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so carried.
Thank you, and I do have a substitute guardian. It's Trish Hoover Jasper to act as a substitute guardian, and the amount is at $75 an hour on an as-needed basis. Again, we might spend $500-600 a year, depending on our substitute guardians.
I'll move to.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so carried.
Thank you. And my last item is a contract with Ironcutter Creative. It's Olivia Tagliaferria. She's been helping us and working with us over the last year or two to develop content for our website and to do promotion and advertising to enhance our recruitment of foster care. And so this is a contract for her services for the period of March of this year through the end of the year, not to exceed $12,200.
Okay. Discussion? A motion?
Did she do those videos that we saw on the
Yes.
encouraging the adoption?
Correct, yes.
Okay, they were very well done.
And we had planned on doing some other videos for recruitment of foster care, foster parents.
Right.
But that got kind of sidetracked here in the last few months because of the COVID-19 issue. So we hope to regroup and get back on track with that. In the meantime, she's done some advertising or social media content for us because obviously with everything shut down, our referrals, our calls to for child abuse has really dropped considerably. And so we really wanted to get the message out that anyone can make a referral if they suspect child abuse. Obviously, the mandated reporters is where the bulk of our referrals come from, but with no kids in school, no club activities, sport activities, and those types of things, our referrals really dropped off. We know the abuse didn't stop, but obviously if we don't know about it, we can't do anything about it. So we did some content to help encourage folks to report suspected abuse. We have some rebounds in reporting.
I'll move to approve the contract with Iron Cutter Creative.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thanks very much, Commissioners.
Thank you, Mark,
Okay.
and thank you for the great job you do in your agency and everybody else up there. Thank them on behalf of the commissioners.
Will do.
You have tough jobs, and you really watch the dollars, and you do a great job at leveraging them.
It's been obviously a pretty trying time recently, and we did and I don't know if you folks are aware, but we did just get some confirmation from the state that the budget that was passed, the 5-month budget that the state has passed, actually included an annual allocation for child welfare, but it did contain a 13% cut in state funds. So there is obviously concern regarding that, but the state and the governor's office, or the legislature and the governor's office, have both said that they hope to address that with the subsequent budget bill that they plan to release there toward November. So we're hopeful, but obviously it does present some challenges at this point if that's actually does happen.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you.
Thanks.
Commissioner comment?
Last Sunday was Flag Day, and it's a special time that we honor the flag. One thing I wanted to do was read something that was, there was a comedian back in my earlier years who was very good by the name of Red Skeleton. And he did a skit one night on television, January 14th, 1969. He talked about a story of a teacher and about the Pledge of Allegiance with the flag. And this teacher had noticed that the students were monotone and just kind of doing this every day, became a matter of habit. And he was concerned about that after listening to him. So he told them the explanation of each word. So I, me the individual, a commitment of one, pledge, dedicate all my worldly goods to give without self-pity. Allegiance, my love and my devotion. To the flag, our standard, old glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts freedom in everybody's job. Of the united, that means we all come together. States, individual communities that have united into, at that time, 48 great states. 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose, all divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united in a common purpose, and that's love for country. And to the Republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern, and government is the people, and is from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people. For which it stands, one nation under God, one nation meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, and capable of being divided. With liberty, which is freedom, the right of power to live one's own life without threat, fear, or some sort of retaliation. And justice, the principle or quality of dealing fairly with others for all, which means it's as much your country as it is mine, and that is what the Pledge of Allegiance stands for, word for word, as we honor the flag. As this past Sunday we honored Flag Day, I wanted to share that. It was also the Army. The U.S. Army celebrated its 245th anniversary on June 14th. It was officially 245 years old. The birthday marks the date in 1775 when the Second Continental Congress formed the Continental Army under General George Washington. He commanded to unite the 13 colonies in their fight against Britain. And today, the Army has more than 700,000 soldiers. So we thank each one of them for their service and all the branches of service. We thank them. And we have in the back of the room, we have a retired Lieutenant Colonel of the Army, Matt McDermott. We thank him for his service and what he's done for our country. So happy birthday to the Army under 245 years. And then lastly, this Friday is a special day. It's actually June 19th is Juneteenth. Juneteenth is this oldest national celebrated day ending slavery in the United States. Dates back to 1865. It was on June 19th that the Union soldiers, led by Major General Gordon Granger, landed in Galveston, Texas, with news that the war had ended and that the enslaved were now free. Now, what's noted about this was 2.5 years after President Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, which had become official on January 1st, 1863. So we celebrate this day in 47 of the 50 states. It's unfortunate the 3 states don't celebrate this. Hawaii, North Dakota, and South Dakota do not celebrate this day, which is unfortunate. But we should celebrate this day because it's a day where we enjoy phenomenal growth with communities and organizations throughout the country. Institutions such as the Smithsonian and the Henry Ford Museum have begun to sponsor Juneteenth-centered activities. So we recognize and acknowledge that day. This Friday is the day to promote and cultivate knowledge and appreciation of the African American history and their culture. Thank you.
No, the only thing I want to follow up on today's conversation is that, we often hear people asking us to do something, vote one way or the other. I didn't have one person come to me and ask me to vote for the $150,000 for the chamber. I didn't have one business call me. I didn't have one individual. I did it because it's the right thing to do. So we have to remember that sometimes our constituents may or may not be tuned into a program or what we're doing because they're just busy trying to keep their lives together. The other comment I want to make is that a lot of emphasis has been put on people dying. The point of the proposal, and whether it's $25,000 or $250,000, $150,000 that I will put on the agenda for next week, the point of the money is not to wait until people get to the point where they're dying to get them out of these facilities. The point is for us to recognize and acknowledge that this pandemic has brought to light a problem that exists all the time, which is that people are in institutions and want to be out of the institutions. And to bring to light that people thrive better when they're not in institutions. The comments by Mr. Webb about his mother the comments by Mr. Harner about his own life, and a story that I told of a woman star who's affiliated with the SIL who was told that she was going to have to spend the rest of her life in an institution, and she said, I'm not going to do that, and she fought to be able to get back the ability to do the things she needed to do. And the SIL was there, the Center for Independent Living, Roads to Freedom was there, as they are all across the country. And when we talk about how great our country is, it truly is great that we have organizations like this, because in many parts of the world, if you have a disability, you literally put out the door. And I've traveled all across the world, and I've seen the sadness and that comes, and some of that is from people not understanding. So our goal is not to wait till people are at death's door, but to try to make things happen now. And just my last thing that I want to reiterate is what Mr. Harner said, that this is not about an either or, good or bad. It's about doing all the things we can do as a community. And I'm glad you brought up the Juneteenth celebration. We did celebrate Juneteenth here about 10 years ago. Connie Robinson from one of the local churches, when I was in the state legislature, and they put on a celebration, and maybe we should look to try to do that and again to try to educate folks about that. And of course, all three of us have marched in the Flag Day march that was named after Anthony DeSalvo, and we remember all the enthusiasm that he brought and the education he brought. He once said to me, he was talking about people burning the flag, and how people back in probably in the 70s, and he said to people, you shouldn't lock them up for burning the flag. What you should recognize is that we failed to educate people about the meaning of the flag and what the flag stands for. And I thought that was a very profound comment from Mr. DeSalvo, and taught me a lot about trying to understand that. So anyway, we have another week forward to look to, and weather's beautiful, so we will keep marching ahead.
10.0 is public comment, but I wanted to, for those that don't have an agenda, speakers who wish to address the Board of Commissioners will be limited to no more than 3 minutes on any particular item. The speaker must state his or her name and address for the record.
Okay, yes, sir. You come back up to the podium, please. That way we pick you up on the microphone for the live stream. Thank you.
My name is Jerry L. Webb. I'm 820 High Street, Williamsport, Pennsylvania. I just want to make a quick statement about something that I heard from the board saying, well, this is federal funding, this is state funding, this is local funding. As a taxpayer, we pay federal, state, and local funding. So when we try to separate it and say, well, we can't do nothing about it, that flag that we talk about for all. So we need to get the three together. And not saying, well, this is state funding, this is federal funding, this is local funding, and we pay property taxes and all those things, but we pay all three of those taxes. So we need to work together with each three and say, well, we need to do this for the people. We're talking about the flag of the United States of America and what it stands for. So when we start separating the parts of the government, federal, state, and local, then we're not accomplishing what we're supposed to be doing.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
My name's Misty Dion. I am from the Roads to Freedom Center for Independent Living. My position is the CEO for the agency. I spoke earlier, and thank you for allowing public comment at the end so that I could finish some of the clarify some of the discussion points. Before I clarify, can I ask either of you, actually both Commissioner Metzger and Commissioner Massar, have either of you visited Roads to Freedom Center for Independent Living? Ever?
I have not. I know where it's located, but I've never been inside.
Tony, have you visited in the last 15 years? So I've been working there for the last 15 years. I'm unaware of your visitation, but I'm glad to hear of it.
Let me interrupt you. We're not allowed to interrupt you. Don't
I just
interrupt
have
the
3
lady.
minutes, right? Is
Yeah,
this
you have
stopping
3
my
minutes,
minutes?
so go right ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yep, you utilize your time, please.
Okay. Have either of you followed up to the flyer and proposal that we submitted with any of the references on it, like the World Institute on Disabilities, the Administration of Community Living? These are federal agencies devoted to enhancing the rights of people with disabilities and their services. The National Council on Quality Assurance, it's an accreditation hospitals have to have as well. Have any of you followed up with any of those references based on the proposal I submitted?
I haven't.
Okay, thank you. Tony? No.
Keep talking.
Thank you. So I just, I ask those questions because we have a lot of backing. This is a relief program that's been thoroughly vetted and backed by many national associations, and I just wanted to make sure that the public as well as you all had that understanding, and I'd be able to share references as well. To some comments, Commissioner Marabito mentioned he hadn't heard of anyone. I hadn't seen anyone from the small business community come to these meetings the last month and a half, and I realize that many of the residents in these facilities are scared. They have no ability to communicate. In some cases, there's one phone for 60 residents and they're not sharing them, or afraid to share them. They're having to schedule it, and it's not allowing them equal access to communicate with the outside world, and they have no support. So my point is that might be why you're not hearing from them, but they're also scared too. They kind of want to plan to get out before they can talk about what's happening in the facility. Although we do have testimony that we can share. To some of the points made, and I have this, I'll give you a handout too with all of this information. The coroner on his site says other numbers than what was mentioned here. It's my understanding, without splitting hairs over the number, there's 23 of 24 were of the COVID deaths were in Lycoming County, were in institutions. So that was the point I was trying to make earlier. Like the small business, these people were locked in at the 8th hour, right? They had no idea that this was going to happen, their family, their support that were keeping them alive. In what we think is 24-hour care, which if you look on the Pennsylvania Department of Human Services and the Department of Health, they quote 3.5 hours on average that a person gets of one-on-one care. So we know that that's not adequate, and without their family support, that's even less adequate, causing some more deaths. Nonetheless, the congregate setting does not allow for social distancing. We've been explaining that. So the cohort setting in a hospital, in some cases hospital, but in a hotel, and then of course the small business profit that goes back into the hotels and into the restaurant would help that situation for everyone that we've discussed here today. Last, the point that was made, we weren't asking for a grant. We were just asking for an allotment of those Act 13 dollars, about $250 as an allotment that we wouldn't ask for until we've spent the money, and we can, however you feel comfortable. I think we've thrown out $10,000 or anything to help support somebody. We've been putting this money, and not only would we match the money, but we've already fronted the money. Again, FEMA has funds for us to go back to state, and we would continue to try to get them as we have been. You made mention of, it was mentioned a couple times here about threats, and even in the pledge, to be able to act and stand up for your rights without retaliation and make sure we serve all. It was mentioned, and it's now no longer in the aired footage, but at the last commissioner meeting, there was some references to a protest I took part in. And while I'm not apologizing for my involvement in the inauguration protest or for continuing through the prayer, as mentioned, I will clarify for some of you that it wasn't the Roads to Freedom Center for Independent Living that led that protest. In fact, the protest was led by members of North Central PA ADAPT, although I'm a member of the group, we have no leaders. We speak for ourselves. Feel free to look them up and to learn more about them. They would be interested in helping to educate on disability services as well. To your comment regarding the way the protest was done and your refusal and our refusal to stop for the prayer, it's clear that you have a misguided understanding of what prayer is. I'm a Christian and I believe in prayer. Prayer is personal and should be done before you come to work. Work is work. Show up ready for work. Public meetings are no different. As a Christian, I am very aware of the activist and governmental rebel that Jesus himself was. As a matter of fact, your condemnation of my behavior is philosophically, morally, and religiously hypocritical. Our Heavenly Father is not okay with anyone using the prayer to silence a group of people who continue to be denied their rights under the law. Unfortunately, this
could you wind up your
Can I
comments,
finish?
please?
Sure.
I've given you way past 3 minutes.
Thank you. Unfortunately, this statement that you made about the prayer just furthers the point I was making that, you know, we need, and I think Tony Massar said it earlier about we need to stand up and speak for what's right. And so that's what we're here to do today. You know, to your point about how it's done, there's no marginal or oppressed group that has ever gotten anything by sitting back and asking nicely. So we're here today to make sure that you hear that we have a valuable program, a relief program that can help. And, you know, it saddens me that for a month and a half we've come here to ask for this. We've provided you the documentation that you've asked for.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you because your time's up. We have the documentation. It'll be on the agenda next week, so we thank you for your comments. I've actually given you 5 minutes to speak, which is more than the time to allocate. So thank you for your time, and we have all the documentation. If you have any more documentation, you can give it to us.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I want to respond to something.
Yes.
I think there's a misunderstanding, Misty, when I said that I hadn't heard. I wasn't saying I hadn't heard from people who were in institutions. I was saying that I hadn't heard from anybody in the small business community to vote for that. But I think that you made a really interesting point, which is that the same way the small businesses were locked down, people in these nursing homes were locked in and their families were locked out. And I was reading the newsletter from the Valley View Nursing Home, and they were saying that it's the 77th day that people have not been able to visit. The 77th day. Think about that. So I think that's a very interesting point for us. And I'm glad you brought up the whole thing about the congregate setting and the cohort.
Any other public comment at this time? And again, please keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Still Karen Koch, still reside in Lycoming County, still own a property at 17 Ringler Road and 292 Myers Road in Trout Run, Pennsylvania. Commissioner Metzger, you spoke about the sacrifices that small business owners make. You know, you miss baseball games with your kids, you work weekends, you work all kinds of hours because you have a choice. You made a choice to run a small business. And again, I speak from experience after running the Senate Bar and Grill for many, many years with my family. It was my choice to miss every one of my nephews' and nieces' weddings because they were on a Saturday and it was a wing day. It was a special. I needed to run my business. It was my choice to have my own wedding on a Monday because it would have a lesser impact on the overall financial operation of the business that I ran. It was not a choice of the individuals who are in nursing homes to not be allowed to visit with their families. You talked about how difficult it is for a business owner. You know, they miss out all this family time and they're working all the time. That's right, but it is their choice to do that. I knew going into the business that I was going to work 7 days a week. I knew that I would not have time to socialize with my friends. Again, I made that choice. I was informed of what could happen. I made an educated choice. Residents in the nursing home don't have a choice. They don't have a choice to see their family. They miss their family right now too. They miss social activities. They miss weddings, holidays, all kinds of things that people love and cherish about family, but it's not their choice to do so. Both you, Commissioner Metzger and Massar, acknowledge that neither one of you followed up on any of the references. You know, when we made this proposal to you 2 months ago, 6 weeks ago, I'm losing track of the time. Here's what we proposed. You would see where the money went. The county would be given an invoice every single week. this isn't the first time that I have questioned sometimes the transparency of this administration. And I believe some of this administration that sits before me has been sued, I believe lawsuits were dropped, but there was a lot of issues about the hotel taxes and the relationship between the county commissioners and the relationship with the Chamber of Commerce and things like that. So we give you a proposal, we outline everything, you're in complete charge of the money, or you're seeing exactly where it goes. You've both indicated that no one has come to you and said, help me get out of this facility. So could you gentlemen, Ms. Mirabito, explain to me, what did the ombudsman say when you spoke to her? Right, you reached out to the county ombudsman, correct? Who is the ombudsman in Lycoming County? You're both commissioners. This woman works for you. Who is the Lycoming County ombudsman? What is the ombudsman? Can either of you answer that? You're just looking at me staring, like deer in a headlight. I'm expecting an answer. You're being asked a question, who is the Lycoming County ombudsman? Your lack of response indicates to me that you do not know. Is that correct?
This is public comment only.
Yes.
Okay, so I would suggest that maybe you reach out to Tracy Foster, who is employed by this county, whose job is to be an advocate in nursing facilities. You want to run about this program and how, we can't do this kind of thing. We can't give you money to get these people out of these programs. Yet neither one of you have reached out to the resource that is employed by this county, who can tell you what goes on in nursing homes.
Your time's up. Your time's up, thank you.
No, other people were given 5 minutes, so I also expect that same courtesy. This is one set of rules for this, and there's another set of rules for that. It's not acceptable.
You spoke earlier, and your time
I spoke earlier as I was permitted to speak earlier. If you gave 5 minutes to one person, I think it's only fair that you give 5 minutes to everybody else. Because you don't like what is being said, you just tried to squash it.
No.
It was made very clear last Thursday that both
Karen,
of you gentlemen feel this is a personal attack. This is not a personal attack. This is about doing the right thing.
Any other public comment at this time?
Don't even know who the ombudsman is, but they're experts on nursing homes in the county.
Hi, Jody Bainey, Center for Independent Living.
Morning, Jody.
Hi, I would ask that we put this on the agenda for next week.
It will be on the agenda, trust me.
Okay.
Mr. Mirabito has now requested it, and it will be on the agenda.
Thank you.
And a final decision will be reached.
Thank you. I would ask that you review everything that we've given you, and if there's anything additional that we could provide you with.
Be glad to work with you.
References,
Yeah.
members of the ombudsman in the community, so you can hear all sides to the story. Commissioner Marabito spoke as a whole, so this is not just a COVID situation. This is happening every day of our lives. This not only happens in nursing facilities, but we're talking about group homes. We're talking about residential treatment facilities that children, agencies within our county support at a county level, locking children into institutional care. We're talking about members of our community who have disabilities that are 13 years old. You know what our county answer is from the local AE? Send them to another state for institutional care. So this goes deeper than just COVID. This is at every age level and at every disability level, physical, mental, emotional, or intellectual. We ask for your support because this is a national issue. And although you feel like you can't support us, there is power in numbers. Your support is everything that we need, whether it's letters of support, just understanding, allowing us to educate you, educate the members of our community, and financial backing when, as you stated, we can't get it from a state or a federal level because, as you stated, they're sitting on the money. And in the meantime, whether you want to acknowledge it or not, people have died. We want to prevent that. Can we prevent that all? Absolutely not. But we want to try. They have a right. Their lives matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Any public comment this time?
Yeah, I'm going to make a statement.
Okay.
So, when you asked me if I was over at the Rose of Freedom, and you insinuated that you've been there for 15 years, and I did not, Karen, you did the same thing.
I did
Your
not say that.
leaders,
I didn't say
you shook your head. So you're leaders of organizations that are lobbying us, okay? And yes, I did. When the organization that is looking for tax credits to remodel your entire building, I was over there probably 3 or 4 times to look at the plans, see how they wanted to put in a food place so that the disabled, you may have been off that day, I don't know, for those days, I don't know. But we were in support of that project, okay, which would have needed maybe a couple $100,000 from the commissioners. So I take offense when you have your own little agenda, whatever it may be. Now, because we were in support of that project. Now, as far as what do you want us to do? How much money is enough? And when is the money over? One. Secondly, if somebody is not getting care, do you think they should come to the commissioners every time and let the commissioners, let you pull them out and give them support? I don't know. Old people die every day. Is that county's role?
We're not talking about just
Is that
old
county's
people.
role?
We're talking
to
about
save
during a
them all?
pandemic.
Okay? Is that county's role? I don't know. I don't think so. I think our role is to provide the services that are mandated to us by this state. Okay? That's where I believe we're at. But I'd still consider something. You've got to have an alternative, because the money just can't continue to flow out of the county like it's endless. It doesn't work that way.
We've
I'm
never
sorry.
asked for any money other than what we would spend.
250,000 was your first request.
We asked you a lot money available that we would be able to invoice you. When you say enough is enough, I mean, we've not gotten any money from the county, to be clear. We aren't lobbying. I would say we're educated. We're not paid to be here to do this. We're not lobbying, nor were we when we did the inauguration. That's called participating in our civil right. And to be clear, when we did that program that you reference, that was having apartments in that building so that people, because right now, the biggest issue, when you talk about Marcellus Shale, the rent went up so high that people with disabilities couldn't get affordable, accessible apartments. And so we were using multiple funds and doing a tax credit project that would bring $9 million to this area, plus put us on the tax, from a nonprofit to a taxpayer. We were doing all of that by giving people accessible, affordable options to leave from the nursing facility, because people are being forced from this county to other institutions or other apartments because there wasn't any. For Marcellus Shale, that's what brought this up, just so we talk. That's why we asked for Act 13 redevelopment funds, because that directly related to what happened with Marcellus Shale and the rise of the rent fees. So to that, I was part of, as the CEO, I was part of that program, and I understand and remember discussing it with you. Nonetheless, that was in your office here, in your setting, not in ours. And we're so much more than that. My point is, we help people with disabilities of all ages, and even if they're 90, we still know, because the proof is that they get better quality of care in their own home. It's cheaper and it's choice, right? So we offer that as a service, and so we really aren't here to ask for your support per se, more so action. And I think, Tony, when you and I talked at the inauguration, which I'll use that word talked loosely, and you said you would slash our funding, you've never given us any fund, and support isn't enough. Sometimes it's action. It's not just the support. And I understand you may not have known about this issue, but we're not lobbying. We're trying to educate you on the issue.
Misty, why don't we do this? Commissioner Massare has raised some questions. How much money is enough? If someone's not getting care, do we continue to pay what happens. And I think that we need to answer those questions, and we need to explain. I say we, meaning that all of us need to, we can't just ask any elected official.
Are they the same questions that you asked of this other? I mean, I'll answer them. I can
Yeah.
answer them right now today, but like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, well, I think that what we should, I get that. I talked about that, about the difference in the way the approach was. But I think maybe what I'm going to recommend is that these questions.
I have a question right now. How do we go from $250,000 down to 10?
Well,
I just heard 10 today. That's the first time I heard 10,000.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I
But
think
why don't you
they
go
were
to the
referenced-
mic, because you can't hear if you're not at the mic.
I mean, this is what we're getting.
Right.
I think, so I won't speak for the person who said it, but it sounded like to me, because 10,000 was an earlier statement of how much you spent on the chairs, I think it was a correlation of if you
Okay,
spent.
the chairs that's a separate issue. That was
it's
explained by
allowing-
Commissioner Massar. It comes out of legacy money. That's to keep a restaurant so that they can make a profit to keep the course open. That's the reason why those are bought right now. They're going to last for 20 years, and they're going to pay us back at the end of the year. And that's a whole separate issue. And for someone to stand in front of a TV camera and say all they care about is their equipment, their lawn chairs at a country club, that's an unfair statement.
I don't know that that's what, but
her,
I won't speak
not
for
her,
her.
but the person was on
I mean,
TV.
she said some.
It was on, and she just left. And she was on TV last week saying that's all they care about. And it's wrong.
I mean, I think
was
it's.
in the middle
We
of
care
trying to-
about a lot more than that.
I know. I was in the middle of trying to say something.
Sorry.
And,
I
okay.
had a question. I apologize. Because the numbers constantly change.
I don't think
So-
it's changed that we're asking for an allotment of 250,000. I think the reference of your expenses on other things is what may have confused that.
Yeah, I think that while I understand that the chairs are from the Act 13 legacy, I think it does beg the question for the public of how, because actually this money could come from Act 13 also. This fronting of this money is not from general taxpayer money. It's perfectly legitimate to come from Act 13. But it begs the question, and that's why I think there's been so much emphasis around the chairs. It begs the question that we can do that. I think that's where that's coming from, Commissioner. That it's not while it's a separate issue. It's making people, as Ms. Gretchen Kennedy pointed out, say, hey, you can do that. Look, at the end of the day, we need to be able to answer the questions for all of us. And I think, Misty, it would be helpful if you could just explain in a couple of minutes here how you usually, this is done every day.
Yeah.
People transition from nursing homes out into the community every day. What's happened with the pandemic is that we have, on the one hand, this lockdown and this locking out of family members, and we also have this incredibly rapid spreading disease that hurts when people are grouped together. So the need to move people out of nursing homes becomes more dramatic. But tell us about how the funds usually work in that case.
So it is your right to, as a citizen, if you were to get into a car accident or needed any sort of level of assistance, that you are entitled to institutional care. In order to, the state realizes that that's not financially or of good quality, and that it's better for you to be taken care of in your own home, and that that's what people desire. So they've instituted what's called home and community-based waivers. However, when you waive your right to institutional care, which you can get from the hospital into a nursing facility in 3 days, when you waive your right and start the process to get on home and community-based services, it can take, luckily now, only 3 months, but when I started, it was over a year. We got it to 9 months, now we've gotten it to 3 months. Nonetheless, it's a lengthy time that people sometimes can't wait without care. So people get still shoved into nursing facilities and told that that's the only option for them. We every day transition people and work with them without them in a position where the facility's on fire, because in COVID, that's what this is. This is a disaster. People are being infected with no control, like smoke inhalation, if you will. And so we are inundated with people wanting to get out to save their life now because of the disaster, where before we had time to work with them through 3 months to get them on the waiver service and to get their home modifications and things. We've had to make this program so that we're footing the bill for some home modifications before they even get on the waiver, because we don't have 3 months to wait. And so we're also working with them to get a hotel, which Dan Klingerman has offered to offer it to us for a cheaper rate and wait until we get FEMA funds if need be. So he's being reasonable. Free meals, so we're giving back to the restaurant. We're matching. We have money that we're putting in matching. The care itself is where, until the waiver comes in, care is expensive. And although we're putting in the funds, we're asking for help with maybe matching funds for it, but we would bill you when it's done. If you wanted to say, based on the budget, we can only do 3 lives. We can only save 3 lives in, a month. I don't know how you want to, that's where we come to you. You're the ones with the budget and the control over the budget. We're just asking that $250 would be used only for the care, so that the Medicaid will hold the bed for up to 30 days. They call it a therapeutic leave, and they will give a diminished rate to the facility to hold that bed. If the person wants to go into the hotel to be safe during the outbreak, or so that they can get over being affected with COVID or prevent themselves from getting it, either way, we would pay for the care for them in there with those funds. We gave you the price of how much that would be. We would request reimbursement up to some portion of it if you want to do it that way, 75%, things like that. We could still go to FEMA as we had promised we would and help you get all reimbursed for it through Category B funds, which are available. It's easier with the amount of staff that the county has to probably do that, but the SIL has said we would help do that as well.
I guess part of what I'm trying to understand myself is that while we may be on the hook for some of the money, we have a good shot at getting reimbursed by either FEMA or at a certain point, if they're there beyond 30 days, the home is no longer going to get paid, and then...
Yeah, we're expediting this. So we've also worked with the Department of Health and the Department of Human Services to expedite that 30-day wait so that we don't go that long. We're trying to get the County Assistance Office to determine what can be determined in some cases, and this has been piloted and been successful in making that determination between 24 or 72 hours at the most, rather than 90 days. And so we're also working on that so when you say at what point does that end, we're not looking for it to go over 3 months, but we're really not even looking for it to go over a week or 2.
But I guess my point is that the nursing home is not going to get paid for a patient that's not there. So if somebody leaves the home...
Well, technically, no, they won't get paid for it. So then, yeah, I get what you're saying. So the nursing facility has to provide 2.7 1-to-1 ratio. It doesn't have to be with a skilled physician or anything, but they have to provide 2.6 hours. I could be wrong. Maybe it's 2.7 hours. Either way, that many hours to be reimbursed for 24-hour care for a person that they would be, serving in the facility. If that person leaves, they won't get that 24-hour reimbursement unless they were providing more than 2.6 hours. If they're in the hotel, we would be paying for that under this program. But the state will hold their bed and give them that diminished rate so that they have the option of going back to the facility after the outbreak, or they could move into the community if that's what they decide.
And if they move into the community, who's going to be responsible for picking up their care then?
The state, that's what we would be doing with the expedited process. The state already does that. Remember, that's the 3-month span.
Right, but that's the point I'm trying to make, is that if the person is not in the institution is not going to get paid after a certain point for the person, but the person is still entitled to care outside the institution.
Right,
and the state will, if it's Medicare or Medicaid, will pick up those costs, and if it's private insurance, then it'll be private insurance.
Yeah.
So to ease concerns, we're not on the hook in perpetuity for care of people. That's the point I'm trying to make.
No, it's just in this disaster, to be honest.
Yeah.
So as the county acknowledged the disaster, we're asking the county to help us by allocating some funds for the care. We've covered everything else. We just need some assistance with the care. We're a small nonprofit. I don't think we qualify for that business grant that you discussed earlier, but I've never seen the qualifications for that. So that's why we were so concerned. We haven't had that opportunity to help people. And again, none of this money goes to our business, not for our staff time, not for any of that. It goes directly to the care of a person who is unable to get it until the city or until the state comes in.
Further questions?
I don't have any questions.
Okay.
Sir, I'll give you one more minute. You already had, please make it brief.
I just wanted to try to clear some of that between Tony Mascara and Misty. He did visit the seal, but like she said, she's the CEO, so she had to go to board meetings, things like that. But I was there when you did visit the cell. Whether you agreed on it or voted for support or not, I just wanted to know because I didn't want you to be offended and I didn't want to be offended. You did visit the cell on one occasion that I know, and I'm with ADAPT and North Central PA, and I support the cell and they support us. I just want to clear that up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Meeting's adjourned. Next meeting will be Tuesday, June 23rd at 10 a.m. We completed all the agenda items, so there's no meeting on Thursday. This will be on the agenda for next Thursday, and we will have a final decision. Thank you.
Tuesday.
Tuesday, I'm sorry, Tuesday. Thank you.